Hello everyone, welcome to Well Powered Faith, a show that explores how we can put our faith in Jesus Christ into every area of our lives. I'm your host, Candace J. Dunkley. I'm so happy to be with you, and today we're going to be talking about the thing that's been on everyone's minds, and that is the elections, #election 2024. And today is actually election day. I'm sorry, I wanted to get this post to you sooner. It's been taking me a while to really get my thoughts together, especially since I'm not really used to sharing my personal opinions on politics publicly. So I had to pray on it, get my thoughts together, but I'm here, better late than never. And my goal here is not to tell you who to vote for. As a matter of fact, many of you have already voted, but my goal here is not to tell you who to vote for. My goal is to share who I voted for, what my thought process was, some things to think about, and some resources. And I hope that it can reach someone who maybe is undecided or was thinking of staying home, but wasn't sure if they were going to. Like I said, it's not to tell you who to vote for, but hopefully I can give you something to think about. And if you voted already, hopefully I can still give you something to think about. We're all learning from each other, after all. Oh, and just so you guys know, I have some notes here. It's not showing, my computer is not showing in the screen, but if you see me look down like this, I'm just looking at my notes. So that's all. But I just wanted to really get into it. So on Sunday, I was one of the early voters, and I went and I casted my vote for Donald Trump. Now, listen, if you had ever asked me if I'd be voting for Donald Trump or any Republican for that matter, years ago, I would have been like, of course not. I've always voted Democrat. I have to say, though, this was the first year that I actively took my faith and put it into my decision-making process. Now, I'm not making any statement against someone else's faith based on who they voted for. I'm saying, as for me personally, this is the conclusion that I came to when I put my faith first in my decision-making process. Not race, not gender, not where I live. I really thought about my personal convictions based on what I've read in the Bible and what I understand about the Bible, and made my decision from there. There are a lot of things that I considered. When making this decision, but one of the issues was abortion. Now, before I continue, I just want to say that while I intend for this video to be informative, direct, and honest, I do not intend for it to be condemning in any way. I cannot condemn anyone. I'm not God. And as a matter of fact, I used to be pro-choice myself, but God started to work on the way I view things, the way I see things, and my perspective has changed over time. Now, while my perspective has changed, I know a lot of people may be thinking, but still, out of all the issues, why are you focusing on abortion? Like I said, I had other things I was thinking about, but this was a big one. And why? Well, I think that's a great question. And honestly, it's because Kamala Harris made this a big issue. This has been one of her main speaking points. And I think it's important to ask why. She's not just talking about a woman's right to choose. She is, in my opinion, advocating for abortion in a radical way. And in my opinion, she has been throughout her career. I want to just talk about some of the things. When Kamala Harris was an attorney general for the state of California, she co-sponsored the FACT Act, which forced pregnancy resource centers to share information about abortion services. The law passed, but was ultimately struck down by the Supreme Court. Now, when she was a senator, she voted against the Born Alive Infant Survivors Act, a bill that would have required healthcare professionals to provide medical care to any infant born alive after a failed abortion. why would she be against that? Now let's fast forward to present day. Kamala Harris is the vice president. She's running for the presidency, and as said before, abortion is one of her main speaking points. So much so that according to multiple news sites, including NPR, Planned Parenthood found it appropriate to host a mobile van giving out free abortions just blocks away from where the Democratic National Convention was being held. It goes to say that Planned Parenthood said that they were not working with Kamala Harris on this, but it doesn't matter. Kamala Harris has been speaking about abortion very often during her campaign, and it's not surprising that Planned Parenthood would feel so emboldened to do this, in my opinion. And I have to say, I truly believe there's something very sinister about it all. So throughout the Bible, you can find places where God punishes nations for sacrificing children to gods like Moloch and Baal. And while propaganda likes to paint the unborn as not fully human because they're still developing, I think we should pay attention to the fact that we are all still developing. The difference between a fetus and a toddler and a teenager isn't their level of humanity. It's really the stage of development they're in. But we're all a part of the human species. Just like, for example, I'll use the example of a caterpillar. Many people would say, oh, a caterpillar and a butterfly, they're two completely different insects. But no, not really. They're actually a part of the insect species. I'll read the name Lepidoptera. In other words, a caterpillar doesn't just miraculously turn into a brand new insect when it becomes a butterfly. It's just in a different stage of life, but the same species. Just like a fetus, a human fetus, does not magically become a different species when it turns into a baby. No, it's the same species, a different stage of life. So in 2023, according to different reports, there were over 1 million abortions in America. And that doesn't seem to be enough for Kamala Harris. She just keeps pushing it. And I believe it's up to Christians to start asking why. The Bible says in Ephesians 6:12, I'll read it, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." Some translations say heavenly places. Now, because of my beliefs, I also flipped over my ballot and voted no against Proposition 1, which would have really solidified a lot of abortion rights in New York, as well as there are a whole bunch of other things that I think are problematic with Proposition 1. You can look it up for yourself. But I did want to point that out. And yeah, so just some things to think about and pray about. Pray about everything that I said. Do you look at the unborn as humans? If so, why or why not? That's something to pray about. Also, in terms of anything that you may be thinking about, anything that you might be concerned about, whoever you're considering voting for, whoever you're leaning towards, whatever your main issues are, think to yourself, is this person the worst perpetrator of that? And have I been believing a lot of propaganda? So if your thing is racism, is whoever you're thinking of voting for, are they the worst perpetrator of that? Same with immigration. Does this person really have the worst policies, or do I just not like the way they say things? And again, I'm not saying any candidate is perfect. None of the candidates are perfect. But those are just some things to think about. Now, in terms of resources, I want to point out, I think that there is a lot of misinformation about abortion and also the history of abortion, how it came to be in America. I think that's something for a lot of people to know, especially Christians. And there is a documentary called the 1916 Project. I think it's going to be streaming for free on X for a little bit longer, I think until November 14th or sometime around then. I really think people should consider checking it out. And you could also ask your church to play it. You can sign up on the website and they can send you a direct link for your church to have it aired. I just want to reiterate, this video is not to be judgmental. I understand there are so many difficult things that women go through that I can't even wrap my head around. I understand that there are so many things that people are up against. Also, I understand that there are some unthinkable circumstances that women go through. And also, there are places that understand that, have compassion towards that, and really do want to help. There are pregnancy resource centers, over, I believe, 3,000 places across the country that offer resources for women and also offer referrals to other resources in the area. More and more places are also offering resources for fathers. And in addition to that, if you've had an abortion, God doesn't want you to hold on to guilt or anything like that. And there are places that will help you walk through and process your feelings. And so there are about 3,000 pregnancy resource centers across the country, like I said. And there are also phone lines that you can call into that will help connect you to the places that can help based on what you're looking for, where you live, things of that sort. So one of those phone lines is called Option Line. I will drop a link in the description. And one last thing I want to mention, I've said this before in my first video, that my mind shifted on a lot of things when I gave up music for about 90 days, 60 to 90 days. So I want to challenge everyone to do that. Consider giving up secular music, because that's what I gave up, secular music, for about 60 to 90 days. And that doesn't mean you have to give up all music. I was still listening to instrumentals. I was still listening to, I was still listening to instrumentals. By instrumentals, I don't mean the instrumental of the secular song you usually listen to, just instrumentals, jazz, lo-fi, whatever you like. And then also you can listen to Christian music. There's so much good Christian music from so many different genres out there. So you can still listen to that. And when I did it, I started off by listening to music that I thought, if it had to be secular, it was something that I really listened to the lyrics, or at least some of the lyrics, and genuinely thought was positive. And over time, even my thoughts on what was positive changed. I talk about that on my first YouTube video, which I'll drop somewhere either up top or in the description, something like that. But I'm going to encourage you to try that. When I did it, I drew closer to God. Not only music, but just think about anything you're listening to that you're putting in your mind. And does this glorify God? Is it, whether it's movies, shows, just think about, what are things I need to clear out? And what are some things that I could fill my mind with after I clear out, or while I'm clearing out? So yeah, and I think it'll help, because regardless of who wins, regardless of who we voted for, at the end of the day, what we need to do is be closest to God and have our minds prepped to be able to hear what God is saying to us. And I think Christians really need to just have our minds as focused as possible, because the nation is going to need the leadership of Christians. Politics aside, we need to keep our eyes focused on Jesus. And this was something that really helped me to get closer to God. So I would ask you to consider it now at this time. So that's all. And I just want to say once again, we got to keep our eyes on Jesus, stay focused. Whoever you voted for, just remember, pray, seek God, and pray for unity and peace as well. All right? Thank you so much. Love you all. See you next time. Bye.